The fortune-telling gypsy girl was thrown into a cell with hardened criminals. Everyone expected she would break. But the moment she looked at the palm of the detention center's warden, everything changed dramatically. Friends, before we dive into this story, write in the comments which city you're from, and don't forget to hit the like button. Your support means a lot to us. From an early age, kids in the neighborhood teased Eliza, calling her a gypsy. Strictly speaking, that wasn't entirely accurate. Her father was an ordinary American man named David, but her mother, Selena, was a true Romani woman, steeped in her people's ancient traditions and wisdom. They had met by chance. David worked as a maintenance technician for the local housing authority. One summer day, after fixing a faucet, he was walking down the stairs when he noticed a woman outside the building, a woman in a bright skirt, her wrists adorned with bracelets. She was reading the palm of an elderly lady. There was something magnetic about her, something that pulled David toward her. His hands trembled slightly, but he approached her anyway, masking his nervousness. "Read my fortune, beautiful," he said, half joking. Selena smiled, looked up at him, and extended her hand. "Give me your palm," she said softly. Her fingers were warm and light as she traced the lines on his hand. Suddenly she paused. "You will find happiness with a woman who will change her entire life for you," she whispered. Those words etched themselves into David's memory. They ran into each other again, and then again. It became clear that the woman she had spoken of was none other than herself. Her name was Selena. For months, she secretly visited him, hiding her visits from her community. After nearly 3 months, she made her decision. She left the nomadic life behind for love. David proposed, and they married. A year later, Eliza was born, a bright, cheerful girl, half American, half Romani. Physically, she didn't carry many obvious Romani features, but the neighborhood kids knew her mother's background and teased her for it. Yet Selena never hid her heritage. In fact, her own mother, Eliza's grandmother, would often visit them despite her daughter leaving the caravan. The elderly Romani woman accepted Selena's choice, saying, "Love matters more than rules." It was Eliza's grandmother who first began teaching her how to read palms, and Eliza turned out to be gifted. People were drawn to her, as though they sensed she could tell them things they were afraid to admit to themselves. Meanwhile, Selena worked from home as a seamstress. David had bought her a good sewing machine, and their apartment doubled as a small tailoring studio where people came not only for dresses, but for advice. Occasionally, Selena would read fortunes as well. In the neighborhood, people started saying, "I'm going to Selena, she'll tell you the truth." Eliza grew up in this atmosphere. The hum of the sewing machine, the scent of herbs and candles, talks of fate and destiny. She balanced her university studies with fortune-telling. Even some of her professors secretly sought her advice, though no one openly admitted they believed in Romani fortune-telling. Eliza never refused anyone, but always repeated, "I only give hints. The rest is up to you." Her reputation spread. People traveled from other towns, some seeking advice, others clinging to hope. After her second year, Eliza decided to move out of her parents' house and live in the dorms. Her parents were shocked. "Sweetheart, why put yourself through that?" Selena pleaded. "You have everything you need at home." "I want to learn to live on my own," Eliza calmly replied. "You won't always be around, and I need to know how to handle life by myself." David supported his wife, saying maybe she should stay home a bit longer. There's no rush for her to struggle. "No, Dad, I've made up my mind," Eliza said firmly. And so, she moved into a tiny dorm room. Life was hard, but she never complained. Her only companion was a cat she rescued from the street and named Lucy. Lucy quickly made herself at home and became a true friend. Eliza continued studying and occasionally told fortunes to earn some extra money, especially after her father fell seriously ill. Treatment was expensive, and she resumed fortune-telling not for greed, but out of respect for her gift, accepting only symbolic payments. One day, a well-dressed man came to see her, a businessman. He didn't introduce himself, just extended his palm and said, "Tell me what awaits me." Eliza traced his palm lines carefully and said, "There will be envious people. Someone will try to deceive you, but you will overcome it if you resist the first tempting deal." The man left, and a couple of weeks later, rumors reached her. His wife and her lover had tried to scam him in business, but he had discovered their plot just in time. Later, the man returned with gifts to thank Eliza, but she refused to accept anything. "That's not why I read your fortune," she said firmly. Meanwhile, her mother continued sewing tirelessly to cover her husband's medical expenses. David was in the hospital, and Selena took every order she could, no matter how small, just to afford his medications. They worked like bees, and it seemed that adversity only brought them closer together. And then, just when it seemed like fate was beginning to ease its grip, Eliza met him. It happened in the park. As usual, Eliza was sitting on a bench reading someone's palm. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, and the air was filled with the scent of lilacs. A man approached, wanting to know whether his wife was cheating on him. Eliza was studying his hand when someone accidentally bumped into her bag. It fell to the ground, spilling her notebooks. "Oh, I'm so sorry," said a young man as he bent down to help her gather her things. "Honestly, it was an accident." Eliza looked up. Standing before her was a guy around her age, slightly disheveled but with kind eyes. "It's fine. Thank you," she replied calmly, accepting the notebooks. "May I help you?" he asked, with a nervous smile. "I'm Nathan," he introduced himself. "Eliza," she replied, showing no emotion. The pain of her father's illness still weighed heavily on her heart. The man whose fortune she was reading took the opportunity to quietly slip away. Nathan, seeing his chance, quietly admitted, "You know, I don't usually do this, but you're incredibly beautiful, naturally beautiful, without makeup." "I rarely wear makeup, only for special occasions," Eliza replied calmly. Nathan hesitated, as if fighting an internal struggle. "Are you okay? You seem troubled," he asked gently. "My father's sick. My mother and I are trying to gather money for his treatment, but it's difficult." He lowered his eyes, then suddenly confessed, "Honestly, I bumped into your bag on purpose. I saw how you were talking to that man, and I didn't know how else to approach you." In any other situation, Eliza might have reacted sharply, but there was something genuine, almost shy, in his eyes. "So that's how you meet girls?" she asked with a faint smile. "For the first time, and I feel embarrassed, honestly," Nathan admitted. "All right," she said, waving it off. "The important thing is, you didn't ruin my notebooks. Thanks for helping." From that day on, they began to talk. At first, Eliza kept it from her mother. The timing felt too heavy for romance, but David sensed it immediately. When Eliza visited him at the hospital, he noticed her glowing differently. "Sweetheart, if you've fallen for someone, don't be afraid to love," he said softly. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Eliza feigned surprise. "I may be stuck here, but I see everything. There's something new in your eyes. Don't worry about your mother. She made her choice once too. All that matters is that he's a good man." Eliza hugged her father, tears welling up. "You're the best, Dad." He patted her shoulder gently. "Live, be happy, and don't worry, I'll pull through. And you deserve happiness." After that, Eliza stopped hiding her relationship with Nathan from her mother. But Selena immediately warned her, "Be careful, sweetheart. Boys today, many of them only want one thing." Eliza nodded. She knew her mother wasn't speaking out of jealousy, but out of concern. Nathan, meanwhile, shared his own story. He lived with his mother, Olivia, and his stepfather, Bruce. Nathan's biological father, Alexander, had once been a successful businessman, but died in a suspicious car accident. Officially, it was blamed on brake failure, but rumors suggested competitors might have had a hand in it. After his death, Olivia fell into deep depression. At first, Nathan lived with his grandmother until Olivia remarried Bruce. From the beginning, Bruce never accepted Nathan as his own. He constantly belittled him, calling him weak. But Nathan endured, studied at technical college, and did his best. When he started seeing Eliza, even Bruce couldn't help but notice the change. One evening, Olivia turned to Bruce. "Have you noticed Nathan's different lately?" "I see it," Bruce snorted. "He's probably got himself a girl. Good. Let him get married and move out. Finally some peace for us." "You only think about yourself," Olivia rebuked him. "But you're right. We should meet her." At dinner, Olivia questioned Nathan. "So, who is she?" "Her name's Eliza. She's a university student," Nathan replied. Bruce scoffed. "So she's smart. You're just a technician." "That doesn't matter," Olivia interjected. "The important thing is that they love each other. Right, Nathan?" "Right, Mom. When will we meet her?" "Saturday, if she's free." "Good," Olivia nodded. Nathan later shared everything with Eliza, feeling uneasy. She gently took his palm and ran her fingers along it, but then paused. "I won't read your future." "Why not?" "Because you're special to me. I don't want to know what's ahead for us. Let's let life unfold as it should." "All right," Nathan agreed. "But we're still on for Saturday?" "Yes, though I'll admit, I'm a little nervous." The whole week leading up to Saturday, Eliza couldn't shake her anxiety. She tried to hide it, but a sense of unease lingered inside her. On Friday evening during dinner, she finally told her mother, "Mom, tomorrow I'm going to meet Nathan's parents." Selena set down her fork, looked at her daughter intently, and asked, "Is something bothering you?" "I don't know. I'm happy, but also, I don't know what to expect." "That's for you to decide, Eliza. Just be yourself." "That's my plan. We'll see how they receive me, and if not, well, that's a sign too." On Saturday, Eliza carefully picked her outfit, an elegant but modest dress, light makeup, a simple hairstyle. She wanted to make a good impression. Nathan arrived in a cab. It was obvious he was nervous too. During the ride, he kept making jokes, awkward but endearing. Halfway there, Eliza suddenly clutched her chest as her heart gave a sharp jolt. "What's wrong?" Nathan asked, worried. "I'm fine, just excitement," she smiled, though it wasn't excitement. It was that same inner premonition. When the cab pulled up to the two-story house, Eliza was surprised. The house looked neat, with an expensive facade. Yet Nathan wasn't showing off. He opened the gate for her with a simple gesture, and they walked in. Inside, the smell of baked fish filled the air. A pie was in the oven. "Come in, please. We're very glad to meet you," Olivia greeted warmly, and even took Eliza's hand. Bruce walked out from the kitchen. He gave a short nod, grunted, "Hello," and sat at the table. The spread was generous. Appetizers, salads, pie, compote. Everything looked polished and expensive, but the atmosphere was tense. Still, Eliza held her composure, answering their questions calmly and politely. "And what do your parents do?" Olivia eventually asked. "My mother's a seamstress, works from home. My father used to be a maintenance technician, but he's ill now. My mother also does some fortune-telling sometimes, and I do too when people ask." A heavy silence followed. "So, you're Romani?" Olivia couldn't hold back. "My mother is. My father is American, but I don't hide my roots," Eliza answered firmly. Bruce stayed neutral, but Olivia's eyes revealed a flicker of contempt, fear, or maybe both. The evening ended quickly. Conversation dried up. After dinner, Olivia pulled Nathan aside. "Seriously, Nathan? You brought a fortune teller into this house." "Mom, she's a good person." "So what if she's Romani? You went to them too when you were desperate for a child with Dad." "Don't remind me of that. I'm telling you, she's not for you. These Romani live in their own world. Nothing good will come from this." Olivia's voice carried loud enough that Eliza, still sitting in the kitchen, heard every word. Tears welled in her eyes. She stood, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come," she whispered as Nathan caught up to her. No, please forgive me. I didn't know she'd react like this." "I had a feeling it would happen," Eliza said, wiping her tears, "but I came anyway." "So what now? Are we breaking up?" Nathan asked, his voice trembling. Eliza looked into his eyes. For a moment it seemed she might say yes, but instead she gently kissed his cheek. "That's for you to decide. If you want, call me." She left. At home, she simply told her mother everything went fine. But Selena, wise as always, saw through the lie. That same day, she went to see David at the hospital to speak privately. "How did Eliza's visit go?" David asked. "She said it went well, but I don't believe her. I think they didn't accept her. She went straight to her room and hasn't come out since." "If they want to tell us, they will," David said gently. "Let them sort it out themselves." Meanwhile, Nathan returned home and declared to his mother and stepfather, "Whether you like it or not, I'm staying with Eliza. I may even marry her." "Are you out of your mind?" Olivia shouted. "He's an adult. Let him decide," Bruce grumbled and walked off. Left alone with her son, Olivia spent half an hour trying to persuade him. She spoke of how different their worlds were, how fortune-telling wasn't a real profession, but Nathan refused to listen. "I'll leave home if you try to interfere. I'll be with her no matter what." "Fine, just don't rush into marriage. Live together for a while, see how things go." "Just don't interfere," Nathan said firmly. "I have to apologize to her. Not for myself, but for you and Bruce." Olivia wanted to argue but remained silent. She saw her son's determination, but inside, a new plan was already taking shape. Despite appearing to accept her son's decision, Olivia had no intention of giving up. She was convinced Nathan was simply infatuated and that eventually this fascination would pass. But if she didn't intervene now, her son might ruin his life by marrying a Romani fortune teller, something Olivia considered social ruin. Her plan was simple: distract Nathan with a more suitable match. She remembered that one of her old friends had a daughter named Julia, 5 years older than Nathan, but stable, serious, with a career and financial security. In Olivia's eyes, she was the perfect candidate. She even intended to invite Julia over for a casual tea, pretending it was just a coincidence, but she never got the chance. Nathan came home one evening, took a deep breath, and announced, "I talked to Eliza. She forgave me. We're back together. And I proposed. She said yes." It was as if the ground slipped out from under Olivia's feet. "What? When did this happen? And why didn't you consult me?" "What's there to consult? It's my life." Olivia wanted to scream and argue, but managed to hold back. She decided if talking didn't work, other means would. That same night, lying in bed next to Bruce, she whispered, "We need to do something." "What do you have in mind?" "Get rid of her. Not kill her, of course," she added with a scoff, "but make it so Nathan leaves her or she disappears." "I know someone in the police, Andrew," Bruce said. "We could try something through him, quietly. No violence, no mess." "Exactly. Something that looks perfectly legal. We'll target her fortune-telling business. She takes money for it, sometimes. That's unlicensed commercial activity. That's already illegal." The next morning, Bruce called his contact, Captain Andrew Morrison. Morrison listened carefully and replied, "I have an idea. We can charge her under business law for operating without a license, for fraud, for tax evasion. It's all on the books." "Don't overdo it," Bruce cautioned. "She's just a young girl. I don't want to ruin her life entirely." "Of course," Morrison smirked. "Just a couple weeks in jail. Let her think it over." The very next day, police arrived at Eliza's home with a search warrant. Selena tried to protect her daughter. "Are you out of your minds? What are you arresting her for?" "Illegal commercial activity. We have a warrant," the officers replied, showing her the papers. Eliza stood calmly, no panic, no tears. She understood it was unjust, but fighting was pointless. While they overturned closets and rummaged through drawers, she packed a small bag and tried to call Nathan. He didn't answer. Ring after ring, then silence. They led her away in handcuffs, though they didn't secure them tightly. The charges were minor. At the station, she was handed over to Captain Morrison, who looked down at her with a smug expression. "Well, sweetheart, you've finally crossed the line." "I broke no laws. People come to me willingly. I don't promise miracles, I just listen." "Oh, really?" Morrison sneered. "But you took money?" "Sometimes, as gratitude. I never forced anyone." "Well, that's unlicensed commercial activity. No registration, no taxes, fraud." Eliza sighed. "You're not doing this of your own will. Someone asked you to. I can feel it." "You think you're psychic now?" Morrison mocked her. "Number, I just know. And I know you have a heavy heart. You're not acting on your conscience." "Enough with the philosophy. Take her to the holding cell," he ordered the officer. "Let her sit there. Maybe she'll come to her senses." Eliza was placed in a general women's cell, small, stuffy, filled with all kinds of women. Some were quiet, others stared at her with interest, and some immediately showed aggression. One, a stocky woman with short hair, sat on the lower bunk reading a book. Eliza noticed something cold and dangerous about her. At first it was bearable, but after a few hours the taunting began. "Well, well, look who's here! The little gypsy couldn't read her own fate, huh?" someone hissed. Others snickered, offering cigarettes in exchange for a fortune. One woman came too close and tried to shove her. Eliza stood her ground, but knew she couldn't last long like this. Then she approached the woman with the book. "I know you're the leader here. You're not supposed to be in here, but soon you'll be free. Your lawyer has found proof you're innocent." The woman put down her book, stood up slowly, and grabbed Eliza by the throat. "Are you looking to get yourself killed?" Eliza croaked, "No. I just read your palm. It's all there." "You serious?" "Very." "Tell me more then. But if you lie, you're not walking out of here alive." "My name's Valerie." "Eliza, pleased to meet you." And so began their strange friendship. The next day, Valerie's lawyer visited her, laying out evidence, witness statements, documents, security footage, strong enough for release. 3 days later, Valerie was freed due to lack of evidence. Before leaving, she approached Eliza at the bars. "You were right. Thank you. But listen to me. Don't be so trusting. This place is a swamp. It'll eat you alive." "Thank you, Valerie. I'll remember." After that, everything changed. The other women began treating Eliza with caution at first, then with respect. Some asked for readings, others simply wanted to talk. Even the guards, initially cold and strict, started treating her with unexpected kindness. Word spread quickly. This girl was different. Soon, even the detention center staff started secretly visiting her. Some asked about sick relatives, others about their children. Eliza never refused anyone, but they tried to keep it all quiet. No one wanted the warden to find out. Of course, hiding it was impossible. Stanley Peterson, the warden, a retired colonel and former investigator with an instinct for everything that happened under his roof, found out within a day after one of his deputies visited her. He didn't make a scene. He simply waited for the right moment. A week later, he summoned Eliza to his office. The guards, noticeably nervous, escorted her in. No one understood why the warden wanted to see the gypsy girl. Stanley Peterson was a serious man. He never dreamed of becoming a warden. It simply happened as a result of his honest service. He studied every prisoner in detail. When Eliza entered, he studied her carefully. "Sit down. Don't be afraid. No one will harm you here." "Thank you," she said calmly, taking a seat. "Can you truly read people's futures?" he asked suddenly. "Sometimes, but not for everyone, and not always." "Could you read mine?" "Are you sure you want to know?" "Absolutely. I'm an honest man. If something bad awaits me, I'd rather know in advance." Eliza placed her hands on her lap, closed her eyes. Stanley, too, instinctively shut his eyes for a moment. Then she rose, approached him, and took his hand. She traced his lifeline, his heart line, his fate line. "You recently divorced. Your wife left you. You have a daughter. She's ill. You're terrified because she needs surgery, and you don't know if she'll survive." Stanley trembled. He had told no one, not even his closest colleagues, that his ex-wife had left him for another man, leaving him alone with a child who had a serious condition. "You're right," he whispered. "I'm scared, Eliza." "Don't be. She'll be fine. You need to go ahead with the surgery, immediately. Don't delay." Stanley turned away, quickly wiping his eyes. But she felt everything. She gently took his hand and placed it over her heart. "Trust me. I say this not as a fortune teller, but as a human being. Everything will be okay." He nodded. Then he pressed the call button and ordered that Eliza be transferred to a private cell where no one could touch her. And so, Eliza was moved to a spacious, single cell. She received proper meals and was even allowed a phone call. But she didn't call Nathan. He wasn't calling either. That meant he had made his choice. The lawyer that Stanley Peterson assigned to her was experienced and tireless. He dug deep, searching for every piece of information. Before long, he uncovered the truth. He traced everything back to Nathan's family. Though he didn't meet them directly, through his contacts he gathered the full picture. It was Nathan's stepfather Bruce and mother Olivia who orchestrated Eliza's arrest. Bruce had reached out to Captain Morrison, and Olivia had pushed for the charges. When the lawyer presented this information to Stanley, the warden listened quietly, then said only one thing: "Bring Morrison to me. Not in my office, in a public place, a cafe." That evening, in a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town, Captain Morrison nervously fiddled with his coffee cup. Opposite him sat Stanley Peterson, silent, focused. Behind him stood another man, the head of the district police department. "Sit down," Stanley said dryly. "There's no truth found standing." Morrison sat, realizing he'd been trapped. He glanced at both men, then finally spoke. "I figured this is where it would end up." "Good," Stanley replied calmly. "Then you'll tell everything, no shouting, no threats, just the facts." I was approached by someone, Bruce, Nathan's stepfather. Morrison began, swallowing hard. He said they wanted to slow down a certain girl. Nothing serious, just detain her. She was taking money for fortune-telling, no license, no taxes. Technically illegal. And you, of course, agreed, Stanley scoffed. Didn't even bother to check who you were putting behind bars. I thought there wouldn't be any real consequences. She wasn't a criminal, Morrison mumbled. Exactly, not a criminal, and yet you locked her up as if she was a repeat offender. Do you realize that this was a false accusation? A violation of federal law? I didn't think it would spiral like this. Stanley exhaled slowly. Well, now it's going to spiral differently. The evidence has already been submitted to the prosecutor's office. We have full proof that Bruce and Olivia pressured you. And you're the executor. You'll answer for your actions. Understand? Morrison pressed his lips together. He knew. This could cost him his job, or even land him behind bars. I'll cooperate. I'll submit a full statement, give my testimony, Morrison pleaded. You will, Stanley nodded. But not for us, for the girl you wrongly locked up. The very next day, Olivia and Bruce were summoned to the police station. They were formally charged with filing a false report, defamation, and attempting to influence an ongoing investigation. Stanley personally insisted that they receive probation and be required to pay restitution to Eliza. She was completely exonerated. First placed under house arrest, she was fully cleared and released just days later. When Stanley visited her home, Selena met him at the door, tears in her eyes. She crossed herself and said, "May God bless you for what you've done for my daughter." "You're the one who raised her this way," Stanley replied softly. "I only helped a little." Selena hesitated, then added, "She likes you." Stanley said nothing, only smiled. A week later, he visited Eliza again. She was recovering, sitting by the window, stroking Lucy, the cat who had never left her side throughout it all. "How are you feeling?" he asked as he entered. "Better, thank you. Can we talk?" "Of course." Stanley sat across from her and for the first time spoke not as a warden, but simply as a man. "Eliza, when you held my hand that day, I felt something. As if you pulled me out of the hole I'd fallen into after my divorce, after all the pain. I can't forget that. You reminded me I'm still alive, that I can still love." He hesitated, embarrassed. "Forgive me if I sound clumsy, but I want to try. Even though I'm older and our lives are different. If you're willing." Eliza raised her eyes. No fear, no hesitation, just calm warmth. "I'll think about it," she replied simply. "Just don't rush me." "Never," Stanley smiled. "I'll wait as long as it takes." A few days later, Eliza and Selena visited David at the hospital. He was feeling much better. After weeks of treatments and IV drips, he was finally able to stand again. When he saw Stanley by his daughter's side, he simply nodded. "That's him, huh?" he whispered to Selena. "Yes," she replied softly. "And she chose him." Stanley respectfully shook David's hand. "Thank you for raising such a daughter. I've met many people in my life, but women like Eliza, they're one in a million." "Take care of her," David said simply. "The rest is up to her. We're democratic here." Everyone laughed. As David continued his rehabilitation, Stanley kept visiting Eliza, not as a warden, not as a rescuer, but simply as someone who deeply cared for her. Stanley soon met Lucy properly, the cat who had stood by Eliza through everything. He brought her a new bed and some toys. Surprisingly, Lucy climbed into his lap almost immediately. That was a sign. Eliza and Stanley began spending more time together. They went on walks, talked for hours, shared memories. He spoke of how long he had battled depression after his divorce, how hard it was raising his daughter alone, and how he was terrified to trust again. She opened up about her childhood, the teasing in the neighborhood, the pain, the first time she read a poem. They were different, very different. But something real grew between them. Not the fiery passion of youth, but a calm, steady love that needed no grand declarations. Stanley's daughter, Kate, was initially cautious toward Eliza, but soon she started calling her by name, and eventually even Big Sister. One day, Kate slipped and called her Mom. Eliza's voice trembled. "If you want, you can call me that." She held the girl tightly. Stanley looked away for a moment. He knew this was the right moment. Months passed. Eliza graduated from university with honors. Her thesis impressed the committee with its depth. She was offered a spot in the graduate program and a teaching position, but she chose a different path. She opened her own center, not a fortune-telling salon, not an esoteric shop, but a cozy space where she helped people with intuitive therapy, gentle counseling, and heart-to-heart conversations. She called it simply Conversations for the Soul. Strangely, people lined up to see her. Word spread quickly. Stanley watched her with quiet pride, happy he had given her not only freedom but also stability to grow stronger. On duty, his colleagues respected him. Outside work, people now knew him as Eliza's husband, the woman who sees souls. One evening, as the sun set and the garden filled with the scent of lilacs, Eliza walked out from the kitchen, hugged Stanley from behind and whispered, "We'll need another crib." He smiled, misunderstanding. "Did you adopt a stray puppy again?" "No," she laughed softly. "I'm pregnant." For a second he froze. Then he stood up, gently took her by the waist, and spun her around right there on the terrace. Lucy, startled, jumped off the windowsill and meowed disapprovingly at the sudden excitement. It felt like something out of a movie. Flowers, tears, laughter, gratitude. That same evening, Stanley drove to the store, bought the biggest bouquet of roses and a cake, even brought extra rations from the staff kitchen, declaring it a celebration. For everyone who knew their story, the pregnancy felt like a miracle. For Eliza and Stanley, it was simply confirmation that life can be kind if you're brave enough to face it. And what about Nathan? He tried to build relationships with other women, but each time it ended the same way: mistrust, instability, emptiness. His mother, Olivia, no longer interfered. She had her own problems now. Their business, once thriving, had been lost along with their influence. They scraped by with odd jobs, and Olivia avoided even thinking about the girl they had once tried to destroy. But one day, she stumbled across a magazine article. The headline read, "The Woman Who Sees Souls." The photo showed Eliza holding a child, sitting next to a man, stern but kind, Stanley. Olivia closed the magazine. Bitterness filled her. Deep down, she understood. The girl they once tried to break had stood tall and built a life with someone who truly saw her worth.